the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, it's another beautiful day, another great opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, that Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. Yes, that's our business every day. And today we're going to kick off our conversation looking at the economic partnership between UAE and Kenya and what will be the impact on that on the African continent. Don't forget, you can be part of this conversation. It's your program. All you just have to do is to go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, to share your view. Like I always say, let your voice be heard. We are set to give you the best of programming to add value to your day and to make your day memorable as well. Blessing is here to also add value to your day. Blessing, good morning.
Good morning, Femi. Good to have you here.
You look radiant as usual. I can't just hide it.
Thank you very much. And you look cool too.
Yeah, great.
So you're a cool kid now.
Oh, great. I'll add that to my CV.
Please do. Your past CV of yours, talking about that, is getting bigger by the day.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
You want to let the cat
No. I'd rather not see. I'd rather not see and wait for the big day when it all happens. But it's getting bigger, and that means that Femi is now more qualified to help you start your day, as we help you always start your day on the morning show, Early Exchange on Souq News. So straight away, let's get on to the news studio to begin today's package.
Hello and welcome to News Update. I am Juvi Ofiene. In a move to reduce the cost of governance and streamline government operations, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has announced the implementation of the long-awaited Steve Orosanye report during the Federal Executive Council meeting held on Monday, February 26, 2024. This decision, coming 12 years after the report's submission and the issuance of a white paper, signifies the government's commitment to fiscal responsibility and operational efficiency. The initiative aims to streamline government operations by merging, subsuming, and scrapping various entities with overlapping functions, creating a leaner and more effective structure. The report recommends abolishing 38 federal agencies, including the Public Complaints Commission and National Poverty Eradication Program, while merging 14 agencies into ministries and 52 institutions into larger entities. Notably, the report proposes merging Nigerian Television Authority, the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, and Voice of Nigeria into the Federal Broadcasting Corporation of Nigeria, and combining the Code of Conduct Bureau, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission into the Anti-Corruption Commission, among other consolidations. Still in Nigeria, as part of efforts to enhance efficiency and minimize environmental and personnel risk in the region, Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, SPDC, has introduced an uncrewed surface vessel, USV, for pipeline route surveys in the Niger Delta. The uncrewed surface vessel completed a 166-hour survey at Boni last month, marking Nigeria's first deployment of such technology in shallow waters. Shell's chief surveyor, Steve Kedwell, emphasized the significant reduction in carbon dioxide emissions and enhanced data quality achieved through the innovation. Collaboration with stakeholders like Nigeria regulatory bodies and local vendors reveal the company's commitment to Nigeria content development. Similarly, training local operators further demonstrate the company's dedication to building indigenous capacity and fostering technological advancement within the Nigerian oil and gas industry. Away from Nigeria, the government of New Zealand has announced the repeal of a pioneering law banning tobacco sales to future generations, a move set to take effect from July. The law, which would have been the strictest anti-tobacco regulation globally, aimed to prohibit sales to individuals born after July 1, 2009, alongside reducing nicotine content and slashing the number of tobacco retailers by over 90%. Despite concerns raised by researchers and campaigners about the potential health risks and disparities, the new coalition government elected in October is proceeding with the repeal without public consultation. Associate Health Minister Cassie Costello affirmed the government's commitment to smoking reduction but proposed alternative regulatory strategies. This decision has sparked criticism for disregarding research-backed measures and increased health inequalities, particularly among Maori and Pacifica communities with higher smoking rates. The Peruvian government has declared a health emergency nationwide due to a surge in dengue fever cases fueled by heat wave and heavy rains. Health Minister Cesar Vasquez reported 32 deaths and 31,300 cases in the first 8 weeks of the year, prompting the government's cabinet to approve the emergency declaration. The minister cited an imminent dengue outbreak affecting 20 out of 25 regions. The declaration aims to bolster resources for health responders. The outbreak, transmitted by infected mosquitoes, causes symptoms like fever and fatigue. Most cases are concentrated in northern Peru, straining hospitals. The minister has attributed the outbreak to climate conditions, stating that high temperatures and heavy rains create ideal breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Last year, Peru recorded 428 dengue deaths and 216 infections amidst ongoing El Nino weather patterns since 2023. And finally, Hungary's parliament has approved Sweden's NATO membership, marking a historic shift for the Nordic nation known for its neutrality, spanning 2 world wars and the Cold War era. The decision following months of delays signals the completion of Sweden's security policy transition. Sweden Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson emphasized the move as abandoning 200 years of neutrality, stressing NATO's role in defending freedom and democracy. Hungary faced pressure from NATO allies to support Sweden's accession. White House spokesperson Karin Jean-Pierre welcomed Sweden's imminent entry into NATO, highlighting its strengthening effect with Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Stockholm's non-alignment stance gave way to security within NATO. Western leaders view Sweden and Finland's accession as significant expansion of the alliance. Sweden's NATO membership, bolstered by its military capabilities, is poised to enhance NATO's northern flank defense and simplify cooperation. And that's all there is for now. Remember to follow us on all social media platforms. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Early exchange continues in a bit with Blessing Egiche and Femi Ayodele. I am Juvi Ufiene. Many thanks for watching.
All right, thank you, Juvi, for doing what you know best, which is to give us the latest development when it comes to news globally, and you've done justice to that. Now let's look at our big story for today. It's a season of collaborations among nations, where nations are looking at where they have comparative advantages to see how they can work together. It's the turn of UAE and Kenya this time around, as the 2 countries have decided to sign a comprehensive economic partnership to see how they can enhance their economic growth. What will be the impact of this for Kenya, and why do UAE find Kenya to be very strategic in this kind of partnership? That will be the thrust of our conversation, as we're being joined by in-house analyst. We have Sam Oruwije joining us this morning. Sam, glad to have you join us.
Good morning, Femi. My pleasure to be here.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning, Blessing. Thank you.
All right. As someone who's been observing the economic scene, you know, what's economic development globally, we're in a season of collaborations, where nations are seeking for strategic partners. Now is the turn of UAE and Kenya. What do you consider to be very strategic about this partnership called CEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between these 2 nations?
Thank you very much. The world is moving at a speed. If you don't collaborate, or you don't draw partnership, there's a likelihood that your citizens back home may not get some economic prosperity. Therefore, this new comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the United Arab Emirates and the Republic of Kenya is strategic in some respect. Number one, the UAE is looking for ways to get some agricultural products from East Africa, Kenya in particular. And if you look at the economic outlook of Kenya for 2024, there's a projected increase in terms of the GDP from about 4.5 to about 5.3%, which are good indicator in terms of the trading relationship. On the other hand, the UAE last year, in their non-oil sector, they had over $710 billion in terms of trade receivable. So if you see it from that perspective, this initiative will help to grow both economies, particularly in the area of agriculture, ICT, and tourism, which were the major highlights signed between the Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, Rebecca, and Dr. The Junior Minister for Trade and Investment of UAE. So it's a welcome development in terms of the trade posturing of those two countries.
Right,
it's better for them in the long run.
Okay. So it's on record that Kenya was the first African country to begin to pursue trade partnership dialogue with the UAE in 2022. And just last year, together with the UAE, they had non-oil deals of about $3.1 billion, which is a lot to happen between two countries. Now, why do you think Kenya initially pursued trade partnership with the UAE? And now that it has achieved that, what benefits does it stand to bring for them?
Kenya is the largest trading bloc in East Africa. The economy is looking very good, and the relationship, particularly with the new President William Ruto, in one of his pledges during last year's election, has said that he's going to find a way to improve on the collaboration between Kenya and other countries to bring economic prosperity to their people. So they are looking at the strategic gateway to Africa, and East Africa seems to offer those opportunities for the UAE. On the other hand, UAE has a lot of opportunities therein that will equally impart on this trade relationship, particularly to Kenya, as you rightly pointed out.
All right. Looking forward for African countries, now the UAE seems to be one country that a lot of countries want to have trade partnership with, because it's considered to be like an importation hub right now. So for other African countries that want to trade with the UAE, what kind of trade do you think will be beneficial to them? Imagine Kenya having non-oil deals that amounted to $3.1 billion with the UAE. What can other African countries trade with the UAE in?
It has to be essentially be driven by economic, comparative economic advantage of the countries that want to trade. So what do you have to bring into the table in terms of what the other country will benefit from you? So once you are able to strike a balance between the mutual relationship between those two countries and what will benefit the citizens of those countries, then those African countries must look inward to see how best they can trade with the UAE. But then again, it's essentially based on factor endowment. What do you really have to bring to the table so that you can sign some trade deals that are beneficial to your citizens?
All right, let's look at the comparative advantages of these two countries. You have UAE and Kenya. Now that they are coming to the negotiation table to look at this economic partnership, what areas or sectors do you think these two countries should collaborate for them to be able to have a proper utilization of this partnership?
I think the partnership has been consummated some few days ago, maybe about 4 days ago. But the key elements, number one there is agricultural products in terms of packaging that will leave East Africa. And mind you, East Africa is a hub for tea and coffee in East Africa. And I think those are the major items that will be taken to the UAE. On the other hand, you have ICT partnership that is coming from the side of the UAE. On the other hand, tourism is a major element in that cooperative economic agreement, that comprehensive rather, that has been signed by both countries. So I think it's a win-win situation, as underscored by the two ministers of trade, the one for Kenya and the one for UAE.
For the UAE and Kenyan partnership, besides just dealing, selling to the UAE, what else can they benefit? What does the UAE have that you think Kenya might need? What in this deal, what do you think the UAE will be offering?
I think it's more of area of ICT and development. That's what is in the document. But then beneficial to Kenya more is the market that exists in UAE for their commodities. Then on the other hand, tourism, which is a common denominator for those two countries, will be what would drive that partnership, in my view.
So when other countries are looking to trade with the UAE, that's like what would they need to do? And you said they need to have something that they would offer. Now, let's look at Nigeria, for instance. What does Nigeria have that would benefit the UAE that could bring about an agreement of such in Nigeria? And what does the UAE have that will be beneficial to the Nigerian economy?
I think it's a bilateral trade relationship. So that will be the working between both countries. What comparative advantages that both countries have, what kind of trade relationship that will benefit both countries. So that has to be on the table. So you cannot really be specific in terms of what you bring to the table. In terms of oil and gas, both countries have those comparative advantage. What other items can we take out of Nigeria that will benefit UAE? What can come from the UAE that will benefit Nigeria? So those are things that you have to do through bilateral relationship, through talks between both governments and the people that do business between those two countries.
According to statements released in this regard, part of the sectors where they will be collaborating has to do with ICT, like you just mentioned. Now, let's look at ICT. When it comes to that sector, most African countries, they are struggling because of the infrastructural deficit. And now that UAE has done so much in that area, what kind of agreements, what kind of collaboration would you expect, looking at the example of what UAE has done with technology in terms of management of the infrastructure, or the streetwise, and even the economy? How can Kenya take example from that, looking at this kind of collaboration?
I think number one is knowledge transfer, then infrastructural development. And I think those will be contained in those agreements. So we need to take advantage of their development in that sector. To what extent can they transfer the knowledge? Then what level of improvement can they use to scale up the infrastructure so that Kenya can get the benefit from the ICT, which is a major part of that agreement.
Now, what does an agreement like this, how does an agreement like this impact trade barrier? Now, for some regions, it's quite hard having trade amongst themselves, or even countries having bilateral relations. Does an agreement like this have to happen in order for those barriers to be removed?
Yes, frankly, once you're able to sign some agreements which are strategic in nature, then those trade barriers will be reduced minimally, because those partnerships will take cognizance of some of those challenges in terms of trading. So the agreement will open up the space in terms of financial settlement systems, in terms of knowledge transfer, in terms of transfer of infrastructure among those countries that are partnering in terms of that agreement that has been put on the table.
Do you foresee any, by extension, impact on the African continent when you look at this kind of collaboration? Of course, it's between two nations, but you can also erase the fact that the effect of this could also be a win-win for the continent.
It is. Once Kenya is able to benefit from those agreements, there are certain elements that will filter into other areas of Africa. In terms of the ICT in particular, you see that knowledge will be transferred, and some employment opportunities, even within the African continent, will happen in Kenya. Mind you, like I said earlier, Kenya is the economic hub of East Africa, and the projection for the African Economic Outlook for 2024, I think Kenya, among the 5 countries in terms of trading destination and investment, Kenya rank about 3rd or 4th. I'm not too sure, but it's among the 5 countries in Africa that are projected to do well in 2024.
So how will this impact the local businesses in the countries?
Naturally, since there are collaborations in terms of those partnerships, it will open up access to market, Kenyans are able to take their coffee, tea, and other commodities to UAE. Then UAE is, on the other hand, is able to bring some of their expertise in ICT to Kenya. So it will benefit the citizens remarkably in terms of economic growth and development, and by and large, economic prosperity of the citizens will improve tremendously.
Looking at the details of this economic partnership, what will be the takeaway for other countries, for other African countries, looking at the exchange of values between these two countries? What do you think should be the takeaway or lessons for other nations?
Number one is that countries must collaborate, partner with other countries to improve on their trade relationship. Countries must emphasize on their factor endowment, comparative advantage. What do they have, so that they can focus on those factor endowment that will be beneficial in terms of trading. Then political stability, good governance, and stable leadership, what I refer to as authentic leadership, to provide that framework for people to want to invest in specific countries.
So having non-oil trade between both countries that amounts to $3.1 billion is a whole lot. Now, how can countries that are dependent on perhaps one natural resource for their economy, how can they build away from that? For instance, Nigeria depends majorly on oil, and the non-oil sector, yes, has been doing well, but how can it develop it more, that you can have as exports more income from that, or even equivalent to its major resource?
Yeah, the campaign in Nigeria has always been diversification of the economy. So effort should be made on those sectors that are having potential to grow non-oil revenue for the country. So what do? We need to scale up investment in agriculture and some other sectors that are useful, that can be developed, and that can be useful to other countries that want to do business with us. So non-export, non-oil export business is essential to grow some other sector. So investment has to be put in those area. Then we need to clean up some of the bilateral relationship agreement that we signed previously with some other country. Which areas can we improve upon so that we can improve on economic prosperity for Nigerian citizens?
All right, great. It's time for us to go on another break. We'll be right back to discuss more. Stay with us.
In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress, welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News. So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for? And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advanced development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's still your favorite program, and we're still in the business of shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. And that's where we're still looking at the economic partnership between UAE and Kenya and the impact of that for these two countries. We still have our in-house analyst with us. Sam is still here with us. All right, now let's look at the area of small SMEs now, small and medium scale businesses. Part of this collaboration is also to see how these two countries can develop the SME sectors in these two countries. I'd like you to react to this, and what do you think would be the impact of this kind of collaboration? Having a focus on SMEs, you know, that's very sensitive to the development of the economy. If you look at developed economies, when it comes to SMEs, they are not being taken for granted. How do you react to the fact that they are being factored into this kind of partnership by these two countries?
I think for me, the small and medium enterprises will be the drivers in terms of the bilateral trade relationship. Those are the main drivers. So the focus on them, we scale up their activities, which will impact positively on both countries. So, for example, tea and coffee, which is a major component of trade in Kenya, when you harvest the tea leaves, they go through processes, they are packaged. So small, medium enterprises will be involved in that value chain that will help to export those commodities out. So that will grow those sectors, which will impact in terms of businesses, in terms of the operators. And when you look at it holistically, that will improve on the economic growth of both countries. So that will develop those small enterprises, which are really the engine of growth of those countries.
What, you know, talking about the Kenyan tea, I've been privileged to have a taste of that, you know, because of the organic feel and also the medicinal value. What do you think Kenya can still do more about this tea? You know, I think there should be more collaborations, you know, on the international sense where these can be taken to the global scene, and it will be a form of exchange for Kenya. How much of activities have you seen in that area, and what should they do better?
No, beyond even this comprehensive economic partnership, Kenya exports tea and coffee to the rest of the world. And if you move in around Kenya, particularly towards the north, There's a belt they call Kerisho belt, which is like the tea belt. You see a lot of companies into tea processing for export, just like Sri Lanka, which is equally dominant exporter of tea to the global north. So that is there. So maybe with this new agreement, more development in terms of how they can take advantage of the processing and the value chain in tea and coffee will scale up in terms of the investment that will come in and the market opportunity that the Middle East is providing via this partnership with UAE. And in that agreement too, there's a column that says that agreement will open up the market between East Africa to Asia beyond the Middle East. I say so the potentials are high, which will improve on the primary commodity, which is tea and coffee.
Talking about access to markets, now the Nigerian government is interested in having talks with the Qatari government, and that should happen in this week. So what do you think the Nigerian government should concentrate on regarding bilateral talks and agreement with the Qatari government as it concerns access to markets for Nigerian businesses?
I think in that state's visit to Qatar, Doha, the bilateral relationship that exists between, that's business to business, the government must find a way to improve see how we can improve on those bilateral relationships, particularly non-oil sector, because Qatar is equally a dominant player in oil and gas. So the non-oil sector must be the focus of the sideline event of the state visit, so that we can benefit from other items that we think are beneficial to Qatar.
If you observe the trend, Africa is becoming the latest right now when it comes to investment. And I'm not surprised that UAE is looking at Kenya. But looking at the bigger picture, what do you think African leaders should start doing to ensure that they are taking advantage of this moment that Africa is becoming of interest to several nations? A good example is UAE now, taking advantage of the partnership they have with Kenya, and I'm sure they keep expanding. Of course, they've been doing that. But African leaders, what kind of narrative would you expect from them at this season that Africa is becoming the investment haven for nations, for them to take advantage of this opportunity?
Femi, I think Africa has always been the beautiful bride of the world. Maybe the dynamics in terms of the way we view Africa in recent time has changed. So Africa has always been the center of attraction, particularly in the area of primary commodity. Then on the leadership side, we must find a way to rework the relationship that exists between us and the rest of the world, where the dominance of taking our primary commodities away to other part of the globe. Effort should be made to see how these investments can come in rather than taking our primary commodity away in terms of manufacturing, so that we can have a way to process our primary commodity here, improve on the value chain in terms of the various sectors in Africa. Then two, Africa must take advantage, particularly the leadership, find a way to focus on this African Continental Free Trade Agreement that exists, that has a potential of over 1.2 billion African. The 54 African countries that make up this 1.2 billion must be exploited to the advantage of the citizens, so that we can enhance economic growth and development in Africa. So leadership should refocus, recalibrate their processes to see how we don't just take our primary commodity away from Africa. Rather, we should bring those investments purposefully by deliberate means that, okay, if you want XYZ, this is what you want. So if you want lithium, bring the plant here, come and manufacture the batteries here, rather than taking the primary product away, then you sell battery to us in an expensive way. With other products in that regard, we'll be able to improve on our relationship, particularly trade with other countries.
Now, what about having agreement on knowledge transfer? Because sometimes, even when the primary products are available, the knowledge of how to utilize them may not be there. Is it possible to have some form of agreement like that?
No, once you're able to transfer technology, by implication, you're equally transferring knowledge, because the people that are going to bring the technical skills to your environment, naturally, when they build those factories, there are people who work in those factories who will get this first-hand knowledge, and that is being transferred to African, and that will improve on the knowledge, abilities, and skill sets of African to develop in terms of the human capital that is available within Africa.
Is it really transferred when they set up factories or set up industries to handle some particular production? Because you find that sometimes the key persons or the key operational people are expatriates.
All right, you have what you call key men in every business. Insurance even recognizes those people, but there's no way you set up a manufacturing plant that produces an item that you won't have other kinds of people along the management line that will eventually take over. So African equally have those knowledge that are useful elsewhere. So if those opportunities are here, they will naturally come back home to feature in those, like a colleague said somewhere, that there's hardly anywhere you go that you don't have Africans, particularly Nigerians, at the top echelons of management. So the knowledge is there, but just provide the enabling environment so that the people can come. Those knowledge will be transferred naturally. Even in Nigeria, there are a lot of manufacturing companies that are set up by Indians. You have Nigerians who are playing at high levels in those companies.
Let's look at some of the common mistakes being made when it comes to the issue of economic collaboration, especially in the area of knowledge transfer, that you think these two countries should work on to ensure that it won't be a repeat of the past where you have collaborations and a few months down the line you don't see the impact. So what are these common pitfalls that could be like a setback to this kind of collaboration, and how can they work towards managing this so that this kind of collaboration can be more viable?
No, those collaborations are viable, but more often than not from this part of the world, when we sign agreements, we don't really cross all the T's and dot all the I's. So what is important, whatever you put on paper that is beneficial to your people, you find a way to look at those terms and conditions of the agreement in a way that is beneficial to your people. So people should pay attention to the various covenants that you put in place when you sign agreement, and make sure that your own side of the bargain, you pursue them in totality vis-a-vis the relationship with the other people. Why other people are benefiting, you make sure you benefit based on the terms and conditions that were brought to the table at the point of negotiation.
All right, let me take you away from that discussion to something about Zambia. It is reported that Zambia's currency, the kwacha, is Africa's best performing currency against the US dollar so far in this year. Now, this is attributed to the tightening of the monetary policy. So yesterday, the MPC meeting, the first since the new central bank governor assumed office, Olayemi Kadusu, was held yesterday, though the decisions of that meeting have not yet been made public, but it is expected that some of the decisions will help the Naira. Now, this is what Zambia has been able to achieve to help give the currency a hedge in comparison with the dollar. What are the lessons to learn here?
I think just on the lighter side, the current president of Zambia is called the Calculator Boy. When he came into office, he had that nickname because there were a lot of challenges. So what he has done in terms of tightening measures and control on the local currency. It's been able to drive inflation down to 9.5%, which is a remarkable improvement from when it came. So they are tightening of belts, and the government is disciplined in terms of how they spend. Even the government itself, the size of government was reduced. Foreign trips were reduced. So in that regard, Zambia currency called the kwacha is the second best currency in Africa in relationship to the dollar as of yesterday. But then the economic indicator in Zambia shows that inflation has been put under control. So the lesson for us is the foreign exchange regime, we must find a way to control that. Two, the cost of living and food inflation must be put in check. So if we want the naira to be like the kwacha, the Zambian kwacha, but the economic indicators of both countries are essentially different. But remarkably, in terms of control mechanism with the IMF and the World Bank, Zambia has done remarkably well by pushing the inflation down by tight monetary and fiscal policy that has helped that regime to solve their problem. So the lesson for us is, what can we do differently? What can we learn from Zambia so that we can put the rate of inflation below a two-digit? They are not there yet, but 9.5 from where they are coming from is remarkable. And that's why they nicknamed the guy as the calculator boy.
You know, Zambia has made history as, Zambia currency, kwacha, as the best performing currency in 2020.
Second.
You know, it's the best.
Second performing as at 2024.
Well, the report says is for now is rated the best. But let's look at what they've been able to do in terms of foreign direct investment, which is also part of why that currency has been able to improve in value. What lesson would that be for other African nations? And what do you think Zambia has done differently to be been able to attract foreign direct investments?
We talk about financial discipline, discipline within the leadership, that's government, ability to fight inflation, control of fiscal and monetary policy. So those are the lessons that we need to learn. But again, foreign direct investment, foreign direct investment portfolio, to what extent can we really bring direct investment that will improve in terms of exploiting and exploring the primary commodity that we are gifted with by God. So if other African countries can focus on, number one, financial discipline, and is gratifying to note that the Orosanye report has just been adopted by the federal government. And if we look at the critical mileage in terms of reform that this will give after the 12-week ultimatum given by the president, Nigeria is on the trajectory of a quick economic recovery based on that decision. So courageous leaders must do the needful so that the rate of inflation, this foreign exchange madness, permit my word, will reduce minimally so that citizens can benefit from their government.
Let's talk about the foreign exchange madness, as you put it. Now, the CBN is also considering a revised regulatory guidelines for the BDCs, the Bureau de Change operators in Nigeria. And one of them is to break them into tiers, tier 1 and tier 2, which the license fee for each tier ranges for the tiers rather, ranges from 2 billion naira or 500 million naira to 2 billion naira. So 2 billion naira for tier 1 and 500 million naira for the tier 2. And then its other guidelines for it looks like an attempt to formalize the system where dollars will only be given for certain reasons like PTA, medical, travel, and some other reasons, which looks almost exactly like what the regular banks would ask for. And then for those who would want to buy or sell dollars, the BDCs are allowed only to make the transfer to their accounts. If you are also selling or buying above from $10,000 and above, then you must declare the source of forex. Now, all of these guidelines, do you think is going to have a negative impact on the parallel market? It is called parallel market for a reason. So do you think that those restrictions are not, that the Nigerian environment is not yet ripe for such restrictions?
I think the restriction, in my view, will bring some sanity when you have increased the regulatory framework that we, in terms of licensing the operators to a certain level. Therefore, certain people cannot play at that level. So that brings some control into the market. So beyond just looking at the bureau de change operators, the government too must look at how they can bring some sanity into the banking sector. There are a lot of sharp practices in terms of foreign exchange transaction. The supervisory role of the Central Bank of Nigeria must find a way to tighten the control mechanism in the way banking is done in Nigeria. They are not really lending to the appropriate sector, and they're not working in line with the prudential guideline in terms of operation, what percentage of your lending portfolio that should go to agriculture, small and medium enterprises. Once the government is able to put that framework, a very tight control mechanism in place, some of those sharp practices that do occur currently between the parallel market and the official market will be reduced minimally.
What I also observe is that the Zambian government has been able to encourage local production. You have copper and some of these metals that have been produced locally. But let's see what the CBN of African countries, or when I mean central bank of these African countries, need to do to reposition the local currency. If you look at the performance of local currencies in Africa compared to the ones in the international scene, it's at the lower table, or the lower part of the ladder. What should be done to improve local currencies? This de-dollarization of the economy, what should be the starting point?
I think from the perspective of universal and regional institutions, the African Union have always mouthed a common currency to trade within Africa. I think beyond the politics of it, Africa must find a way to have a common currency to enhance inter-trade within Africa. So that would be my suggestion, that these politics that try to divide African to have a common understanding in terms of trades and economic development is to have a common currency which they can use for settlement of their trade relationship. Though the African Continental Free Trade Agreement has some components where countries within Africa can find a way to settle their transaction in local currency of whoever they are trading with. But they are still bottleneck in terms of this transfer mechanism. So a common currency beyond the politics of the Bretton Woods is to find a way to improve on how we can trade among ourselves, improve from this primary commodity posture by finding a way to bring this investment, and some of these things are manufactured, at least if it's not 100%, about 50% of these primary commodities are processed to a level so that we can have a reflected economy that will be beneficial to all.
Now, in line with having a common currency, the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, actually made a proposal for a common resolve to be made by African leaders, and that resolve is to have 30% of each country's foreign reserve domiciled in African financial institutions. In any way, would that benefit the currencies of African countries? Would that, because forex is one thing that is really in short supply in many African countries, would that in any way boost the availability of forex?
Well, the challenge of African leadership is they are always talking and they are not walking the talk. So that's a challenge. What has Akufo-Addo done in Ghana in recent years? There are challenges there. So good that he made that proposal, but what is important for me is that how can they drive the collective process of trying to see we have a common currency for settlement in terms of inter-African trade, rather than relying on this dollar transaction that the Bretton Woods institutions has held us for too long. So let them have a very political decision when they go to the African Union Head of States meeting, that we have a deadline within 2 years or 1 year to provide a common currency that we can trade with. So we're tired of these proposals that don't go beyond those summit diplomacy.
Now let's look at these over-dependence on foreign currencies in African nations. You have a good example in Nigeria, talking about the dollar, and then looking at what is happening to the naira. Now there's been this narrative, there's a need to de-dollarize the economy. But in African nations, you discover that when foreign currencies, when they sneeze, our local currencies are in trouble. A good example is what is happening in Nigeria. So how do we address this over-dependence on foreign currencies in African nations?
Number one, reduction in importation. We have this knack or craze for foreign item. So that's one. So we need to be less dependent on import. We already spoke to the need for a common currency to trade within Africa. So that will reduce the dependence. And I'm happy that there are new strategic alliance between some African countries and Brazil, China, with a view to see how the dominance of the dollar is reduced. And I'm sure with the number of countries that have joined the BRICS from January 1 this year, and more countries are likely to join, such initiative eventually will help to reduce the overdependence on the dollar as a unit of settlement in international trade.
Will it be too early to rejoice that this alliance has been formed? Because you also recall that the BRIC is looking to have their own currency. So would it be a displacement of one currency for another?
No, the challenge here is that when you depend essentially on one settlement means, then it's difficult for you to do business. So it's not a displacement. Those countries that are within that strategic cooperation will benefit in terms of how they can settle their trade relationship without necessarily going to source for dollars. So the pressure that is on the dollar that makes us having challenge in terms of the settlement will reduce to a very large extent. So that disequilibrium, if you permit my choice of word, in that international payment system will be beneficial in the long run to African countries that join that economic integration group. In my view, that is sustainable.
All right. That's it for now for that. We'll wait to see what happens when the BRIC currency, they're able to get that, or even trade begins to happen more between African countries and the BRIC bloc. We'll see how that happens, and we'll come back again to look at it and see if there's reasons to actually shout and say, okay, yes, we've gotten there, or some relief has come. Thank you very much, Sam Oruji, for being with us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a quick break. We'll return shortly. Stay tuned to Early Exchange.
My name is Dr. Agility Obi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Compassion, paradox, non-polarization. 3 key competencies for any leader that wants to be visionary, courageous, and take bold decisions without fear. I believe that more than at any point in time, today the world needs visionary, courageous leaders who will not be fearful to take bold decisions. I'm convinced more deeply about this based on the work that I did with the AACSB International. The AACSB is a body that accredits business schools, of which I'm on the advisory board. And we're looking at what are the competences that a leader will need in today's complex world, where you have things like large language models, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and all the things that are happening around us. What kind of a leader do we need? How do we equip them in the schools? And 3 areas that we don't seem to touch at all are 1, compassion, paradox, and non-polarization. Let me expatiate on each of these ones. The typical leader is painted as Superman, macho, don't show any emotion, get it done. Sometimes the team member that you're leading, they need to know that you are there for them. They need to know that you have their back. Maybe you've been performing historically very well, but you've fallen onto some personal difficulties. It could be marital, it could be health or whatever. And at that point in your low ebb, you don't need someone trampling on you and making you feel less of yourself. At this point in time, you need in your leader a shoulder on which you can cry on, a listening ear, a voice that says, don't worry, I've got you. Compassion, never taught in any school. And very important that it should be taught because it's part of the leadership competencies that will differentiate someone from a mediocre leader into a visionary and courageous leader. The other competence is paradox. And sometimes as leaders, we are so conceited that we are holding on to a view which is fantastically wrong. And we don't want to see the truth because we don't want to be wrong. But just consider this, that sometimes it's based on a whole lot of experiential input that you come up with the right result. Consider 3 blind men trying to determine an elephant. The one at the tail will say, oh, this is a rope. The one at the legs will say, this is a tree. The one at the side will say, definitely a wall. The one at the trunk will say, I'm holding a snake. And none of them is wrong or entirely right. It's only when you take the totality of the experiential that you come up with the right answer. It is an elephant. And this is also important, to hold a thought that it's not just my way or the highway. What are the other inputs to get to the right place? And the last but not the least is non-polarization. We program ourselves into binary. Austin, do you like tea or coffee? The moment you ask me that question, I can add 2 more options. I could like none or I could like both. So instead of 2 options, I have immediately created 2 more. I have 4 options. And as leaders, we tend to fall into that binary trap. This is the correct one, this is the wrong one. But let me give you an example. If you write the figure 6, I see 6, and I say this is 6. Ronald sees a 9 because he's standing ahead of the 6, and he says this is a 9. And we trade blows and we call each other names and we call each other liars. But if I go on to Ronald's side, I'll see that what he's seeing is a 9. And if he comes over to my side, he'll see that what I'm seeing is a 6. So it's not binary. We shouldn't have polarization. Rather, we should strive to see things from the other person's perspective. The best example to illustrate this is little Mary that is being taught mathematics at school. And the teacher says to Mary, if I give you 2 apples and I give you 2 more apples, how many apples do you have? Mary says, I will have 5 apples. Teacher is very annoyed. Mary, you are thick. We went through this several times yesterday. If I give you 2 apples and I give you 2 more apples, how many apples would you have? If the teacher had asked Mary, why do you say 5? Mary would have told the teacher, because my mom packed 1 apple for me in my bag. So if you give me 2 apples and 2 more, plus the 1 in my bag, I will have 5 apples. Think about it. Compassion, paradox, non-polarization. 3 key competencies for any leader that wants to be visionary, courageous, and take bold decisions without fear.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This early exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the early exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Many thanks for staying tuned to Early Exchange, and this time around let's take a look at the new development as President Bola Tinubu has approved the full implementation of the Oronsai report. Now let's take a mind back to the year 2012 when a report on the operations of several ministries, parastatals, and generally several aspects of the economy was done. And in 2012, some recommendations were made, and that was under the government of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Now, there have been advocacy by a lot of analysts in Nigeria and some other persons that the recommendations of that report should be implemented. And for those who were on the list of advocates for that, I guess for them now is like finally someone has listened to us. So the president has approved the full implementation of the recommendations of that report. Now to talk about this, we would be having Oji Udemezwe, who is an associate author, Chartered Institute of Bankers. Is also an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, and he's on the show this morning. Is here with us in flesh and in blood. Good morning. Welcome to Early Exchange.
Okay. Morning, Blessing. Thank you for inviting me, and Femi, thanks. You guys are doing a great job here, and I'm glad to be with you. Right.
Okay, like I said, the Oronsai report was done in 2012, commissioned under the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. Now, it proposed a streamlining of Nigeria's federal government to reduce costs and improve efficiency. Now, there were several recommendations that were done. Some of them had to do with the merging of some agencies and even the scrapping of some.
Scrapping, amending, converting some to departments of government, and all of that. It has become very imperative and very compulsory, by the way. So, well, we thank God that the president has taken the bold step to, get this done. He's been waiting, for us to do in the past decade or more than that. And we can't afford to not do it at this point. Nigeria at this point, some people don't understand the data and the figures we're looking at. We're still calling, proposing a budget of 25 trillion and all of that. But Nigeria has not raised more than 10 trillion ever in our whole life. And this year, the actual estimate I'm making is around 7 to 8 trillion naira as revenue. And we plan to spend 25 trillion. That's impossible. So we're going to be running a very huge deficit budget in the next few years. Meanwhile, the debt we're owing already, is more than stifling the country. Currently, our debt service to revenue ratio is almost 90%, meaning that if Nigeria earns 100 naira today, we spend 90 naira trying to service our debt. Do you understand that? As an employee of a company, you earn 100 naira in a month. And when you get that 100 naira in a month, you have to pay 90 naira to those you are owing in servicing the debt, not even paying the debt totally. And that's not being alive. So right now, Nigeria cannot afford to do anything less than trying to cut down the cost of government. So it is compulsory, and much, much more than that, report needs to happen for us to begin to see some progress in this economy. All right, so, that's the first step. I even think that they have to look at that report and recommend more scrapping and merging of entities that are doing almost similar, a kind of job. So it's imperative. That's the first step. Apart from doing that, even the ones that we now, establish and that emerge afterwards, we have to be careful how they are managed, how they are, populated and so on, and to ensure efficiency, in the system. Because the current expenditure is killing this country. Every time we propose, we do 70% recurrent, 30% capital expenditure. But at the end of the day, nobody looks at the final spend at the end of the year. You find that we are doing nearly 85 to 90%, recurrent expenditure. And even most of all of that, including the recurrent and capital, we have to borrow to do them. Because the revenue we get, like I said earlier, we spend nearly everything in servicing our debt. So we have to keep borrowing. Without borrowing, this country cannot survive. And that's why we even had to, in some, in recent years, be doing careless ways and means, which the Senate is currently investigating, which is something you have to do. It's a constitutional requirement for the limit you can do ways and means in a year. But we saw a government, in the past 8 years, using ways and means to solve all problems. Raising short-term instruments to finance short-term expenditure and so on. And all of that is hurting this country at this point in time. To add to it, we have more like frittered away all our foreign exchange earnings in trying to defend the naira, and therefore at this point when we need this reserve, to now properly defend the naira, we can't find the inflow. Central bank remains the only source of foreign exchange at this point, and these are all the issues we created over the years by carrying heavy costs of governance. So this decision by the president is a very welcome development, and I hope they will pull it through to the last. In fact, even do much more than that report has recommended.
Wait, before we quickly go ahead, this administration that is approving the implementation of the report, that's one of the recommendations is for scrapping and merging of ministries. But this administration has also created new ministries. What do you make of that?
Well, that's more like a paradox. How would I put it? We are saying that Nigeria needs to be run properly. So if there are needs to create any agency to do any particular assignment that will help this country, there's no problem about that. But the point is, why will you create a new ministry or a new agency or process of government when somebody somewhere had been created to do similar kind of work? So duplicating or multiplying duties is where the problem is. If there's a new challenge, maybe we had COVID, we have some health challenge, and we can't find a department under the Ministry of Health to deal with that, or you can form a committee under them. So for me, I don't even see the need to be creating new ministries, but you can create departments or agencies under an existing ministry of government to handle key issues. Nigeria is old enough as a democracy to not say we can find ministries in government where we can deal with issues. The problem with all of these things is political patronage, trying to favor or find a position for people who have helped you get to where you are. And that's why you have, aid to an officer of government, the aid to the aid of the officer of government, senior assistant, all kinds of things. And everyone carries its own baggage and troubles and expenditure that's weighing government down. A governor is traveling or a president is traveling, you see a retinue of aid, all kinds of aid to aid. Who's now doing the job? You are senior assistant and aid to the assistant, aid to the assistant. That's what's killing this country. We are wasteful at this point, and until we deal with this, Nigeria cannot move forward. I'm sorry to sound negative, but if we don't deal with the way we spend money in this country, we behave as if everything is okay, government carries on as if everything is okay, we will not get any better. The problem we're having is even just the beginning. So we need a government that will come down our high horse, initiate some kind of, austere, measures that will make us spend less, and even what we spend, make sure we get value for it. For example, a contract is awarded to buy a computer, and you're buying the computer for 100 million. One computer, they will tell you, even if you want to install Word, app or whatever in it, it can't cost that. But that will see in every level of government in this country. An item that you can get for 1 million, somebody budgets 100 million for it, and it's approved by either the House of Rep at national level or House of Assembly at the state level. Well, which country can survive that way? So the waste is so much. So much corruption is killing this country, and we need a government that would be upright and righteous in the way we deal with issues, and not trying to patronize people. Oh, this is the one who helped me win this state. This is the one who helped me, corruptly gain this vote, and therefore whatever he wanted, we'll give it to him. That's killing this country, and we need to deal with that.
Sorry, before Femi takes you on now, that example of 1 million for 100 million was just an example, right? So do we have actual cases where that's happened?
Somebody, I don't want to call names, I'm old enough in this country to have seen, bids, budget, and so on. I have a very good friend, I won't mention the state, who's a member of the House of Assembly. He mentioned to me that in one sitting of the House, a budget for computer exam, that's why I use that example, came up, and he's wondering, I'm a computer person, I understand this thing, how can this ministry buy this item for this amount? He couldn't believe it. He appeared to be the only one who was shouting against approving that particular expenditure. And everyone else was proposing that it should be approved and should move on. Unfortunately for him, or fortunately so, he found that something was happening that he did not know. In their so-called lobbying, everybody had been lobbied to approve that expenditure. He was the only one they hadn't met. So in a way, they were trying to calm him down, that we will meet you after this engagement. So calm down, don't worry. So he was jokingly saying, oh, I'm the odd man out. Everybody has been settled to make this happen, and the only one has been. So much of that is going on in the whole 36 states in this country. I can assure you of that. In the federal government level, the same thing. So when it comes to fiscal responsibility, one of the key issues there is not how much you spend, but what value do you get for your spend. Beyond the spread of capital expenditure and even other key developmental expenditure, beyond that spread and the quantity or the quantum of fund, the important thing is what value do you get? Do you award a contract for 1 million naira and 700,000 goes into consultancy and all of those under the table things, while the remaining 300,000 merely go into the contract itself? That's a major issue we have in this country, and that's why we need a righteous, non-corrupt leader in this country. I don't want to comment about what happened in our last election and my concern about whether that process has produced that righteous, prudent, and non-corrupt leader that we need in this country.
All right. Let's dig deeper now by going back to history. This report was submitted in 2012. The former president, Goodluck Jonathan, had the intention of restructuring, and that was why he considered this committee, but unfortunately he couldn't implement the report.
Because he had hoped that he would win an election and then stay some more 4 years and be able to carry through these things. That man, even though we saw him as weak when he was our president, but I think he carried on some good legacies of dear President Obasanjo.
But this would have been his greatest legacy.
He would have gone, but he couldn't live in presidency to execute it.
Why did you think that happened? And looking at successive government, what are the lessons here for Nigeria? It's been 12 years.
For me, the key lesson is that this country must carry on, with the rightful intention to make this country work. We should stop interpreting policies from the eyeglass of Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Efik, Ibibio, Ijo, and all of that. Some policy of government that will make Nigeria work better will come up. Somebody will think that this is a policy that's going to kill position for my people. I don't want to call names. Oh, this one will remove milk from the mouth of Igbos, or the mouth of Yorubas, or Hausas, or Fulani, and all of that. That's what killed this report. Some people felt that merging this ministry will remove in this country, people stay in their houses, mother, children, and so on, and they earn salaries because the husband or their fathers are working in one ministry, and all their names are pushed in, and this country is paying salaries to people who are not anywhere to be seen. And when the IPPIS system came up, people were fighting it. Oh, we will not join because you have to do biometry and all of that, and then make sure we capture you. And this country is paying salary to many dead people, many non-existent people, many people that you don't see anywhere. And it's still going on up to this point. Who will clean this urgent step? Who will clean up this mess in this country? We are dying because we are not prudent. We are wasteful. In all of economics, it's all about achieving efficiency. Efficient allocation of scarce resources. And the difference between a poor and rich nation, you don't have to go and do fasting and prayer or call God, disturbing God up and down. Oh, pray for Nigeria, pray for Africa. The difference between a prosperous nation and a very poor one is management of your resources. Simple. Basic economics. When many countries don't even have as much, 1/10 as much resources as we have in Africa. But they are prospering because they will come in here, deceive us, confuse us, carry our raw materials at raw level. Crude oil, we send it raw here. We can't refine our oil. At our age as a democracy, we can't refine simple cracking of crude oil. We cannot do that because vested interests have held us down through NNPC, I'm sorry to say that, and other people. They rather that we send the crude oil out at peanuts and then go back to import it. Still up to today, more than 50% of our import requirements come from oil and gas. Refined petroleum constitute over 50% of our dollar requirement for imports. Why would Naira not be trading at 2,000 for $1? If we can remove all of that alone, we will breathe as a country, and our FX expenditure when we import will be much lower than what it is now. And this pressure will go. This chasing around of BDCs and so on is not our problem. They know where the problem is. We are spending dollar to import what we don't need to import in this country. One, and then even those who get the dollar don't need it to start with. Those who get it with contacts in a CBN or presidency and so on are still there around the corner trying to. So until the gap between we're going to get to that maybe at some point, between the official rate and the parallel market rate, until it closes strongly and permanently, this dance between dollar and naira will not end. And this is one of the major issues causing high inflation today, making prices jumping off the roof, making wages become worthless. People's take-home pay cannot even take them to the bus stop. How much more going to the home?
All right, the conversation is getting interesting, or it's going to get bigger, and that will be after this short break. Stay with us.
In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to Souq News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, Souq News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. Souq News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, Souq News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. Souq News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson.
It's Ife Yunwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare. I'm inviting you to keep watching Souq News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like Souq News. Souq News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to Souq News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news, first time.
Find Souq News. Be with Souq News. Never switch off. You are better for it. Souq News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for Souq News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching
Souq News.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching
Souq News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found this truth in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the light different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need the same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, if you're just joining us, we have you covered. We're still looking at the Rossoneri's report and some of the recommendations being made by this report and the committee. It's been gathering dust for 12 years, but the report seems to have seen the light of the day as the president has ordered the full implementation of this report. We still have our special guest here with us in the studio. Glad to know you're still here with us.
My pleasure.
All right. Now let's look at some of the recommendations of this report, which is looking at some agencies like that of ICPC, EFCC, that they should be merged. Now let's look at the implication of this. If this is going to happen, even though the minister has given the assurance that it will lead to loss of jobs and all that, but how realistic is this? By the time you merge these ministries, wouldn't there be clash of responsibilities?
Yeah, if it is well done, there will be a minimal conflict. But then, would there be conflict? Yes, there will be. Would there be loss of job? In reality, there should be. That's the whole essence of it, to cut down, unnecessary recurrent expenditure, salaries, allowances, and so on. But even as they plan to execute it, I also advise that they must do it with caution. For example, there's no point lying that people will not lose their jobs. But the point is, government can incentivize early resignations. These things are done even in the private sector, and it's done so smoothly. I have a number of clients I train By the way, I'm a trainer. I run a consulting firm. I have this bank I train in Rwanda, and the bank is carrying a lot of old people that are no more very relevant in their current strategy. What did they just do recently? They provided some huge pause for any of the old staff who had done, let's say, 20 years or more with the bank to collect this handsome package if you resign. And when you resign, you also have your gratuity and all of that to be paid to you. So you see people, before I left Kigali about December last year, I saw one of my students, somebody I had trained in that same band, joyfully share with me, I had just resigned. What happened? I want to pursue my own business. So I know he had taken advantage of that. So government can, why am I saying this? Government can incentivize public officers who might, because many of these people you see in government have several businesses they are running by the side. But their interest and attention, is divided. They are, giving some part of their time to government without being devoted to their job, while also running their farm or some other kind of business. If you propose to them to leave government work and earn $1 million or $2 million, some amount of money that will be attractive depending on their levels, they might look at it. I have only maybe 7 more years to go in government work, or maybe 3 more years to go. Why wouldn't I collect this package, put it more in my business, and give that business 100% of your time? And the funny thing is that while we all in this country cling to 9-to-5 job, the best way to actually develop a country is through entrepreneurship. I'm not saying that we will not all work. I'm not saying leave your job, Femi. I also worked for 16 years, though I plan to do less. But I worked in banking for 16 years before I started my consulting firm. But the point I'm making is that if you look at all developed economies in the world, whether it's Germany, US, Canada, Luxembourg, and all of them, those economies are developed through entrepreneurship. So it's high time Nigerian government began to encourage entrepreneurship in very strategic ways. So why am I saying this? The whole of manpower likely wasting away in public service, because you see an office that can be manned by 2 persons, you have more than 8 or 10 people there because government is just trying to help create jobs and reduce unemployment. And therefore we are recruiting people even when we don't need them. Talents and capabilities are not maximized. You see an office where somebody is employed, the person checks in the morning, signs his or her name, maybe 9 or 10 a.m., and goes away. And he appears by 3 p.m. The person is not needed on that job. And that's what we have done over the years, because we have tried to create jobs in this country, leveraging only on government effort. There's nowhere in the world that you chase away unemployment through government employment. You do that by creating a very good and ease of doing business, a very conducive environment for businesses to thrive. So SMEs, individuals can run their businesses, whether it's plumbing business, electrical wiring, farming business, and any kind of menial jobs. When these people do these things, they pick 1 or 2 relatives to work with them. One employ 3 staff, the other one 5, the other one 10. And if you have 1 million people that do that, in this country, you see how jobs are multiplied. America is driven by entrepreneurship. All developed economies of the world are driven by what? Entrepreneurship. So government can begin to think about it early enough. Because to implement that report doesn't mean today you scrap all the agencies and and sack everybody. No, it may be phased gradually, maybe in the next 2, 3, 4 years. But right now they must begin to look at what strategy can we put in place to even let people live on their own. Those who have great ideas, people who have discovered themselves, who know that they're better off running their poultry farm, and they are going to make millions of money from that. What you earn as a salary in a year, you can earn in a month or 2 of doing good business. I can tell you that comfortably. I'm an entrepreneur right now, and I can tell you that it's possible. All right? So when you take, so what am I saying here? As they're trying to implement this report, I advise that they begin to take all the affected ministries, all their staff, take them through, a very neutral, non-biased training. Don't let anybody know, you're likely to leave us, that's why we're training. No, train everyone in entrepreneurship skills, on self-leadership skills, on the ability to stand on their own, assuming, they have something they want to do. We're not saying we're going to sack you, but we're saying that assuming you want to leave government service at this point, we will support whatever hustle you want to go into. So we place this amount as an incentive for you to resign if you want to. It's not compulsory, please. So that people will not say, oh, you want to chase away my people, chase away this level or that level. No, and NLC will say, we declare strike. No, make it totally voluntary. We place for this level to this level, we place 5 million. If you want to voluntarily, it will cost this country a lot, but that's where we can take a loan one time and resolve this issue and then begin to recover ourselves from this. Because this heavy burden of salary payment is weighing this country down. But you can take a strategic step, spend big at a point, budget for it, get it done once and for all. It's a surgery you will do. It will pain you, it will hurt you, but it begins to make your burden lighter. If somebody is dying of cancer, and there's a big surgery, you have to cut open and all, do it. Do that painful surgery. As we finish it, then we'll now go into recovery. We'll start spending less, in the current expenditure, and begin to have more funds to channel towards capital expenditure. And even the amount of debt we've taken so far, we'll now begin to have space to begin to pay them. Our debt, service may even begin to go down if we begin to have more efficient government ministries. Tax collection is efficient. Environment for business is developing, more entrepreneurs and so on. Tax collection will increase, and then the country will begin to see some breathing space to develop itself. That's what I think. So the key thing I'm recommending here for them is to train all the ministers, not even only those who are affected. Every civil servant should receive some kind of training in self-discovery, personal leadership, entrepreneurship skills, and all of those. And they are given the voluntary window to choose to collect an allowance and resign peacefully. No strike, anything, no industrial action. It is voluntary. And as people take this step and resign, then the remaining ones, you begin to now check where do we have space to reassign them. That way, there won't be a loss of job in terms of frustrating people and so on. There won't be a fight or long-drawn war with NLC or TUC or any of those bodies. It will be a strategic way to lessen government burden. Take that burden once and for all, and then we begin to realize. And then we stop recruiting people that we don't need in public ministries. And how can we achieve that? By engaging more in capacity building at every level of governance, at the state level and so on. And of course, making states run like enterprises, not a case where every month all the states run to Abuja to go and collect their largesse and go back. How do we make our state begin to get more efficient? I'm sure somehow we'll get to that point where we talk about fiscal responsibility and so on. Getting our states to run like enterprises and not just collecting handouts in Abuja. Because we can't continue to live like that way. If we run like enterprises, every state would fight to generate their own revenue, will fight to export whatever the best they can. It's not only oil we have in this country. We have solid minerals here and there. We have agricultural products. We have all kinds of things. We have herbs. We have vegetables in different states. So if every state will focus on how to harness their own resources, how to attract investment in post-harvest technology, in manufacturing and processing, and we can see export happening here and there. And we do constant export training. Government can partner with banks and other export agencies to train people on how to export, so we can see more inflow of, these are the medium to long-term solutions to this our Naira-dollar crisis. We can't keep depending on only oil revenue to solve this problem.
In terms of efficiency, do you think that will be achieved for a lot of ministries, like maybe some health ministries that have been running separately? You have the NACA, for instance, the National Agency, the one in charge of AIDS, HIV and AIDS, that was also recommended to be abolished. And you have several other agencies like that that were recommended to be abolished. So let's look at this way. Unbundling versus merger. What are the pros and cons? Now, why some agencies have been advised, government has advised to unbundle some agencies and merge some? Is there need to take a critical look at the report and not take it hook, line, and sinker and say, okay, for some we need to unbundle, for some they may need to be merger, and then some scrap it?
But that's exactly what the report recommended. And for them to recommend that something should be scrapped, they must have seen that actually there's nothing they are doing. Let me give you an example. For example, look at the Ajaokuta steel mill, for example. There are a number of agencies that are created around that enterprise. But for several years, nothing is going on there. No, exactly nothing. There's no production going on, no sales going on, no revenue coming from there, and yet we are spending huge sums of money paying salaries of different agencies of government personnel who are meant to be overseeing that business. There are several other government agencies and businesses, whether it's about dams or agri-enterprises and so on, that are just lying fallow. Nothing is going on. Their business is shut down. And yet people wake up every morning, they say they go to, even NNPC, if I may say. Our refineries are also good examples. A refinery is there for 4 years, no single production is going on. No refining is going on. But billions of naira, is being spent on paying salaries. People who wake up, go and sit in the office, doing one bureaucracy, nothing going on. That's how low this country has got over the years. So I think that the committee set up by the president, if they do their work very well, they will know what to do with different agencies, whether to scrap completely, or to unbundle completely, or to merge. Where an agency is relevant, and the other agencies doing similar things like they are doing, they can merge them and then find out who can fit in anywhere. And like I said earlier, you may not be able to carry everyone along at the same time. There's no advantage or no gain government will make in this project if they say have to carry everyone along. There must be a time people have to leave, but the way they live is going to be an issue. How do you make them leave? Can you incentivize their living? So the benefit of this exercise can be, well maximized. So whether it is merging or scrapping or unbundling or restructuring, something must be done. Where you have over 600 agencies, where you don't need more than 300, that's weighing this country down. So I know that report is more than 12 years, about 12 years old. So I believe that the implementers will not take it hook, line, and sinker. There must be, we're human beings, we're meant to think and review. So I'm sure they will sit down again, review between then and now what has changed in this area, in the health ministry, maybe in oil and gas ecosystem, or maybe in tourism, Ministry of Works, and all of those ministries. They'll look at each of them and say, what can we do? The whole idea is to scale down the cost of governance and reduce the redundancies and inefficiencies that you find around government ministries, departments, and agencies. That's the whole idea. At the end of the exercise, Nigeria must gain trillions, not just hundreds of billions, gain trillions in savings from the exercise. And like I said, to avoid moving people more into hunger, increasing the level of unemployment in the country, we can move people from those government ministries into their own entrepreneurial endeavors. Like I said, by training them and giving them some incentive to resign honorably and move on with full energy and their full chest into their own private enterprises.
Do you think government will have the resources to incentivize people into entrepreneurship?
It can be done if you want to do a reform that can take you forward as a country. That's the point you can approach World Bank or any of such multilateral agencies to discuss a useful lending that can, free you up in the future. Not the kind of lending that we see today. You go and borrow 1 billion to do palliative. Who are you giving the palliative? Who is in that list? Political settlement. So such wasteful borrowings, we don't need them. This is more strategic. Instead of borrowing to share to politicians and their families and friends, say you are giving palliative to 500 Nigerians, how many million Nigerians? How many of us, in this place have got that such money, or no relatives that have got that such money? Which list do they use? Which data? So such wasteful borrowing in the past should stop. And for the first time, you now want to cut down the size of government. That's when you can now say, okay, we need this amount to settle people who are moving from government into the private enterprise. You take that loan once and for all, resolve this issue, and then move as a lighter government. And we must do this sincerely, so that when we finish it, we will see the result in the lightness of government recurrent expenditure. If it does not improve in billions or trillions over the years, no gain must have been made. So whatever you spend in trying to settle those whom you have incentivized their living, you must gain it in the amount to spend, the less amount to spend year on year on the current expenditure. You must gain it also in the way you see improved efficiency, and then those who are left in the ministries must be given targets and mandates, what they must achieve. They must run their business like enterprises where you give result of what you are meant to achieve on weekly or monthly basis. So we need to begin to appoint people in those agencies or ministries, who are competent, not based on political affiliations. When we begin to, focus on merit to appoint leaders of these ministries, we begin to see results. So it's not just to cut down, we have to look at a whole lot of issues around efficiency. Right people, right capability, right training, right, and right assignments, and so on.
All right. The committee in charge of the implementation, or to work out the implementation template, has been given 12 weeks. That's about 3 months. Do you think this time frame is enough to work out the modalities?
It's more than enough.
Then another thing, do you foresee any form of resistance on the part of ministries, agencies that will be involved? I'll give you a good example. If we were to merge ICPC with EFCC, the question of who becomes the chairman of that agency could be controversial. What do you think?
Okay, I think it's all about management, how the process is managed. We have a commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have ministers of government. We have other levels of authorities in executing this mandate. If a leader is upright and righteous and impartial in the way they appoint people, in the way they elevate people, in the way they give assignments, then quarrels and conflicts will be minimized. However, in any institution, whether private or public, there will always be conflicts. Conflicts are normal in human dynamics and relationships. So, but to minimize conflict, you must assign people to their areas of competence. You must give people roles that are qualified to manage. And we must begin to, even though we try to satisfy the federal character thing, but you must do that correctly. As much as you want every part of the country to feel included, you must also look at the competence. Let every state give us their best people, personnel, not those who belong to APC or PDP or Labour Party or other parties. Party loyalty might play some part. That's the reality of life. But if you combine that with, even in parties, there are also competent people. So find them. So recruitment is going to be a big issue here. Not just fresh people, but recruiting within the agencies the right person to the right position. If you do that, and you do that impartially, complaints will still be there, but won't be as much. And as you see results coming out, you can justify what you've done, knowing that people will see results coming out from the action you've taken. So there will be conflicts here and there, no doubt. But like I said, the most crucial conflict I see is the fear of people losing their jobs. If you resolve that well, the issue of who will take over a position is easier to handle. You can't appoint yourself as a director or permanent secretary. Somebody has that political power and authority, constitutional authority to do that. You have to just obey. If the president selects through the governors or other levels of authority, selects names to announce as maybe commissioner of this or director of this, you can't, as long as it follows through due constitutional process. If it's the one that needs to be approved by the Senate or House of Rep, and they do that, who are you to stand against it? So once they do the right thing, get the right approvals at all levels, I don't see any major issues. The only thing I see is the fear or the scare of people losing their jobs. That's where NLC will try to fight to finish. But that can be handled properly. Engage all stakeholders, seek their own views, and then when you prepare that package as incentive, they can't even fight that one because people are choosing to resign on their own. Something that will not be too expensive in the country, but fair enough to attract those who, many people in these ministries, I can tell you, are running their businesses and only putting their names down in these ministries as a way to collect second salary. When you incentivize them and let them know that if they have to be in the list, they must give you their all. So we have to find a solution whereby if you're working for government, you do it 100%. All devotion and commitment must be there. Not half and half. You show up in the morning, go away, show up in the evening. You're receiving your salary. So we let you know that if you accept to work for government, we have to find a way to ensure that you are there offering the service. So if you prefer to run your own business, we can give you some incentive and you go full time into your business. So we know those who are actually serving government, those who are serving themselves. And that way it will be a win-win. Government will get more efficient, people will get some support, more like a grant, to run their business, and as they leave, they're employing cousins, friends, brothers to run that business, and unemployment will automatically come down. So you can come with the right strategy in a way that instead of achieving unemployment, you achieve a higher level of employment where resources are fully and properly employed.
All right, on the final note, let's look at fiscal responsibility. Now, for these agencies or ministries that will be given maybe some targets or asked to generate revenue and also reduce expenditure, I fear for the implementation of this. Do you foresee a situation where in a bid to meet targets, it now becomes a thing where it's all about meeting targets and not actually rendering service, and at the end of the day, the citizens are made to suffer for it?
You can't meet your target without offering great service, even in private enterprise.
But what if it's in the case of monopoly where it's the agency that runs, there is no alternative to it?
It's only when people don't understand their KPIs. In HR terms, it's what you call key performance indicators. All right? If you are giving an assignment, maybe you're in FIRS. Is it FIRS? Yep. Federal Inland Revenue Service. And you are meant to collect tax and so on. The way you relate with the payers of tax will enable you to collect more tax. So you must offer good service as you try to meet your target. And by the way, targets are not only quantitative, they're also qualitative targets. If there are issues around service, like you have Servicom and the rest of them, and we have the right people running those platforms, whereby if you offer the bad service as Ikeja, electricity and so on, people have a line to call. That is not working in this country yet. We have Servicom, but I'm sorry to say on this platform that Servicom is merely cosmetic. People have suffered a lot in our aviation sector and all kinds of sectors, health sector and so on, but you complain and nothing happens. If we can be serious with such platforms where service standards can be managed, can be regulated, things will work better in this country. People will offer service, people will be happy to pay their tax and so on, and then this country will get better for it.
Hey, let's just wrap up with this. The details of the MPC meeting will be unfolded today. What are your expectations? Do you foresee any tightening of the MPR?
All right, this country has been running, on a very tight monetary position over the past year or more. And as they will always say, there's more money in circulation. The amount of money in circulation is approaching 100 trillion and all of that. And quite paradoxically, we haven't had MPC meetings in the past few months or so. I think this should be the first MPC meeting since July last year. So this is the 293rd MPC meeting, and we expect their announcement or notices to come out today. So Nigeria is still grappling with a very high level of inflation. In fact, I think the inflation officially is around 30% today. Unofficially, we all know that things have doubled in the market. So I believe that inflation is more than 100% in this country in the past 1 year. That's even a very...
Officially, it's still 29.9.
Officially. But you and I know that things that we buy have almost doubled in the past few weeks, not even a month. So, but let's keep the official rate of 30%. That is also very huge and very bad for our economy. So, looking at that, there's a pressure on the central bank, on the MPC, to hike rates. Usually the monetary policy game is that when there's so much money in circulation, by increasing rates, people will be forced to save more, to invest their money in fixed income instruments rather than spending it. So that way, you mop up liquidity. And then, by the time you mop up the money, the demand for goods and services will drop. And then, inflation will be curtailed. That's what we call demand pool inflation management. But again, the argument has been, and I'm on that school of thought, Nigeria's inflation can never be resolved by just hiking rates. So by hiking rate more and more, we are wounding and injuring our economy. If I had enough time, I would explain it in a simple way that the man in the street can understand. So our inflation is more cost pushed than demand pull. There could be some element of demand pull, because when there's so much money idle in the banks, banks need to do more of trading in fixed income, FX, and so on, causing price hikes and so on. But our inflation in Nigeria, in fact, almost all of Africa, is cost push, mainly because we import almost everything that we use in this country. People still import distilled water and all kinds of simple things that we can produce on our own. So high level of importation of what you call foreign demonstration effect, tending to love foreign item more than our own. Even when we have local rice that's well prepared, richer in vitamin and so on, we still want to import rice that is polished and chemicalized from a far distance that spent months to get here. We still prefer it to our own local rice. So because we import almost everything, the unavailability of foreign exchange to import is making prices go up every single day. Since the dollar-naira exchange has been dancing polongo in the market, you find that every other thing you buy, you can price something right now, go back the next day, they tell you it has doubled in price. You have to accept it. So that's a major part of our inflation. How do we deal with that? We have to remove a lot of things from our import list, including refined petroleum products. That alone, that single stroke, if it's done, can solve this problem. So it's not by hiking rates. So I expect that MPC will be under pressure to hike rate. I think they left MPR at 18.75 in the last MPC meeting. I expect that they will move it to 19.5 maybe. That's by 75 basis points increase to maybe just to see how to close the gap between inflation and the benchmark rate in the economy. Because right now, Nigeria is a place no investor portfolio particularly may not want to go to. Because inflation devalues your money at 30% every year. While the benchmark interest rate, which is 18.75, sorry, which may now be moved to 19 point something, I suspect, this is my own thinking, to close the gap a bit between inflation and our official rate in the country. That's as much they can do. Any attempt to move CRR further from 2.5 any higher is killing the economy. Any attempt to move liquidity ratio, a minimum liquidity ratio will also injure the economy. So they can only tinker with MPR right now, not with CRR or MLR. They have recently done something with the net open position of the banks to avoid keeping too much cash, particularly dollar cash in their position. Sell it off to provide liquidity in the market. That's already operating. So what I expect today is that they may not change any rate, or they may change MPR up a bit. That's the best they can do. Any attempt to further move CRR will mean that manufacturers and local producers will continue to borrow at much higher rate. Lending rate today in the market is more than 30%, and that's killing to entrepreneurs and producers, and that's not good for economy at this point.
Thank you so much, Oji Chigozie Udemeze, for being our guest today. And he is the managing consultant and also the CEO of Flame Academy and Consulting Limited. When a man does his job and he knows he does his job very well, he's quick to point you to it and say, this is what I do. You must you must make sure that you bring that to light, because he's very good at what he does. And from all he's been saying today, you know very well that he is sure of what he says. And we do hope that the outcome of the MPC meeting is one that will be favorable to the economy. That's the hope. But of course, we'll be very sure at the end of the day, and we'll bring you updates on that tomorrow. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks.
That's a wrap on the show today. Many thanks for being with us on the way from 8 a.m. to this time. Let's do it again tomorrow. The show begins at 8 a.m. West African time. Be sure to stay with Souq News the rest of your day. You will benefit greatly from it. You can thank me later. I am Blessing AJ. Enjoy your day.
And from me to you, in spite of the economic challenges, let's find a way to make ourselves happy, because you are the CEO of your own happiness. Early Exchange returns tomorrow. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.